Some of you may think that America is doing great. You tell yourself the economy is booming and we're largely at peace. But if that's your stupid opinion, it's only because you've been paying attention to real life instead of reading the news. In the news, things are absolutely awful. For instance, here's a 9/11 article written by Joe Scarborough in the Washington Post, in which Joe says Donald Trump is harming the dream of America more than any terrorist attack ever has. Now, you may say, that's ridiculous. Joe Scarborough would never sink to commentary so disgustingly low it constitutes a slap in the face of every American who's lost his life or a loved one to the evil of Islamist murder. But boy, oh boy, would you be wrong. Sure, Joe writes, the terrorists want to kill us and everything we stand for, but Trump has damaged the country's image. And that's even worse because of some reason that I'm sure makes total sense. Another headline in the same paper says it's not wrong to compare Trump's America to the Holocaust. And you might think an editor with integrity would cut his own heart out with a penknife before he'd allow someone to write a column in his paper comparing this free and compassionate nation to a country that attempted to systematically slaughter an entire race of people. But if you think that, you must have let your subscription to WAPO lapse. And in case you're wondering, the article says Trump is like Hitler because he says mean things and stuff. And finally, there's this headline from The New Yorker. We live in the reproductive dystopia of The Handmaid's Tale, in which it turns out the spoiled rich women who read The New Yorker are actually oppressed, like the women in the TV show The Handmaid's Tale, who are actually spoiled rich actresses pretending to be oppressed women. So maybe it all makes a kind of sense. Anyway, it's sad that life in America is so terrible in the news, but you've got to face it. There's no sense burying your head in reality. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, it is mailbag day. Hurrah. Oh, God, my... Stop doing that. Yes, it's mailbag day. We're going to answer all your questions. We've got some really good ones today. Very hard questions that we have to tackle, but we will. And the answers are guaranteed 100% correct. So there's no suspense, but so you will get the right answer and they will change your life. Maybe even for the better. So I guess there's a little suspense there. I had a great time at the Reagan Rand Center. I want to say thank you to them for hosting me yesterday. It was really a moving experience and an uplifting experience in a lot of ways to see. It's always wonderful to see people dedicated to working to spreading the information that about how great this country is and what it needs to preserve it, and preserving free speech on campus, all of which they're doing. We welcome today a new sponsor, Genucel from Chamonix, and this is a beauty product that will make the sunspots that you get on your hands, maybe your face, will make them fade, and also can take out the moisture that causes the bags under your eyes. I have to admit, I didn't try it. I gave them to my wife to try, and it is true. It's hard for me to report on it because it is true. She looks more beautiful every day, but that was always true. That's been true for years. However, she has been using them, and they've given them clinical trials. You can get the Genucel Sunspot Corrector absolutely free just for trying Genucel for bags and puffiness, and you can see those stubborn sun spots vanish, even the ones you've had for years, and the bags and puffiness gone. So go to Genucel now or call 800-525-4980. And that isn't all. For a limited time, Chamonix Microdermabrasion is also yours free for the first time this year. Plus, order now and receive free shipping. So say goodbye to wrinkles, dark spots, and sunspots today. Call 800-525-4980 or go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com, Genucel.com. So one of the things I talked about yesterday was the fact that everything becomes literature eventually. All history becomes literature. Everything becomes story. And what I mean by that is as the people who experience something died, and as the pain of an experience and the actual experience of an experience fades away, we tell the story over time and we get meaning out of it. We either remember, that there are enemies in the world, like 9/11. We remember there are enemies in the world. We remember we're defending something here that multiculturalism is a mistake. It's nonsense. It's not true that all cultures are the same, that some cultures are based on better ideas and make better cultures, and better cultures make better people. Even though all people are sinful and problematic, better cultures, better ideas make better people. And I think that that was one of the lessons we got out of 9/11. But the telling of stories starts in the moment. And this is something I well know. I've been telling stories all my life. And, you know, it matters how they're told, and it matters what meanings are plugged into the places where, to the characters in the story. So, for instance, I never liked the movie Schindler's List, and this is not an attack on Steven Spielberg. It's a beautifully made movie. It's a spectacularly made movie. It's very touching. It's very warm. But Schindler's List, because Steven Spielberg is Spielberg, it became the Holocaust movie. It was the American movie about the Holocaust. And the Holocaust was not about people who saved other people's lives. The Holocaust was about evil. It was about death. It was about suffering in despair and terror and torment. And to make it this uplifting story is to tell a lie about it. But that's part of history fading away. History fades away, and we look for hope and we look for inspiration. And so a story can be true and not true at the same time. One of the things the left has mastered, because the left have taken up all the storytelling positions in Hollywood, in publishing. The left dominates the storytelling scene. And one of the things they have mastered is how to tell a story that feels true, that is filled with untrue values. And my favorite example is V is for Vendetta. Watch V is for Vendetta very carefully. It's actually a fascist film, but it feels like a film about revolting for freedom. And people watch it, and every time I say it's a fascist film, people say, no, 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 the individuals rise up and they revolt. But who are the powers that oppress them in the film? Because what the left does with these stories is they replace the true oppressor with a false oppressor. So in the V is for Vendetta, they replace the true oppressor that was threatening us at the time and still is threatening us to some degree, Islamist radicalism, and they replace that with Christianity. The oppressors are Christian. The oppressor is Parliament, the mother of all freedoms that we have, political freedoms that we have today. And the whole story is people overturning, in the name of Islam and protecting Islam, overturning the Christian oppressor and overturning Parliament so that the people can rule, and they're all masked and anonymous. It's a fascist film. And they make you feel that it's a film about freedom by replacing the values of the actors in it. So in other words, the people who are acting to oppress are people who in real life want you to be free. The people who are oppressed are people in real life are oppressive. And that's a good trick that they use. And they're using it now in the news. They're using the same technique in the news, because it wasn't, you know, just as they were celebrating 9/11, it wasn't just Joe Scarborough who made that incredibly stupid, low, disgusting point that somehow Trump could be compared to a terrorist. In what sense? He dialed it back a little bit. He said, oh, I misspoke, or I tweeted it out in the wrong way. But no, I mean, that was just a bad thing to do. And what he should say is, oh my goodness, I got over excited and I made a mistake. But he doesn't do that. It wasn't just him. Senator Angus King was out there trying to sell the narrative that somehow the Russian attempt to affect our election, which was a couple of guys spending a few $100,000 on Facebook and hacking into things, was somehow related to 9/11. Listen to this.
That was, I would argue, the beginning of an attack that's continuing today. They used airplanes into towers. Now people can use the click of a computer key in St. Petersburg, Russia, to attack. It's an attack that continues, and it's the same kind of attack today that occurred in 2001.
No, it's not. He says it's a little hard to hear because of the echo, but it's the same kind of attack today with Russians in St. Petersburg clicking on their computers as it is when you murder 3,000 people who will never come home to their families. And that's just absurd and insane, but it is a way of telling stories that the left does. And here is the thing. It's working. It is working to some degree. It's an article in Bloomberg. Here's the headline. There's never been a president this unpopular with an economy this good. It says there's little doubt the economy is on a roll. Gross domestic product expanded at its fastest clip in 4 years in the second quarter. Unemployment is near the lowest since the 1960s, and wages look to be finally on the rise, which is a big deal. While consumer sentiment on the economy is currently higher than the average of any president since the polls started in the 1980s, Trump's approval rating, as measured by a separate poll, is the lowest of the lot. And the circus in Washington, it says, is seen drowning out good economic news. So think about it. What's the circus in Washington? What is the circus in Washington? Trump is an obstreperous loudmouth. He treats people badly, the people around him badly, his employees. How does that affect you? That's just a story. It is a story you are being told. Oh my goodness, John Kelly says it's crazy town, or whoever said it was supposed to have said it was crazy town. Even though they deny it, even though the people deny it, the rumor goes around the world before the truth can get its pants on, and you are being told the story. Oh my goodness gracious, what a terrible thing. And one day Donald Trump may just pick up a phone and bomb North Korea, and nobody will be able to do a thing about it, which is utter nonsense. And that's the story that's being told instead of the real story. You know, we keep hearing about civility. Now, let me talk about this in a minute. First, I have to talk about Black Rifle Coffee, which, listen, I have to tell you this. When I go to Starbucks, I don't even go into Starbucks anymore because I like Starbucks coffee, but I'm so tired of listening to them preach to me their left-wing nonsense. I'm so tired of them taking time off to do meaningless bias training instead of making coffee. The guys at Black Rifle Coffee are veterans, and they just make coffee and support this country. It was founded by former special operation vets. Black Rifle delivers the best roast-to-order coffee right to your door, and this guarantees you're getting fresh premium coffee with every order. And in addition to great coffee and great gear, by the way, Black Rifle has a coffee club that makes things easy. No lines, no running out, just great coffee shipped right to your door every month, hassle-free. They also give a portion of their sales to veteran and first responder causes. I'm sold. Call to action. Visit blackriflecoffee.com/Klavan and receive 15% off your order. That's blackriflecoffee.com/Klavan for 15% off. blackriflecoffee.com/Klavan. And yes, you say, yes, I want that coffee. But how do you spell Klavan? It's Klavan. So this other story that they use the McCain funeral memorial to put forward, oh, civility, wither the civility. Republican congressional candidate Rudy Peters, who's running against Democratic incumbent Eric Swalwell in California, was attacked by an assailant wielding a switchblade while campaigning at the Castro Valley Falls Festival on Sunday. This nutcase started shouting about Donald Trump and then rushed at him with the switchblade. And luckily, the candidate Rudy Peters was able to grab his campaign sign and fend off the switchblade. Now, I just want to say, since we're talking about this, civility, and who causes violence and who's inciting violence. We're always told any minute now, Donald Trump's rhetoric is going to incite violence. We're constantly being told that on the news. Let's listen to the way the networks covered this story last night. All right. Yeah, all right. So that was not much coverage there. Nothing. We are constantly hearing that Donald Trump's rhetoric is the chaos, the horror, he calls them this. They say, well, when he calls the press enemies of the people, that's what Stalin said. Yeah, but there's a big difference. Trump's not Stalin, so it doesn't matter if he's using the same language. A week ago, just a week before the stabbing happened, there was another story. A Republican Party office in Wyoming was set on fire. It was set on fire just 2 days after it's opened. Local authorities say the fire was arson. Here's how this was covered in the news. Hey, gee, that sounds almost the same as the other story. It's almost as if they're not covering this stuff at all. Let me mention another one, just to give you the idea of the civility on the left. PJ Media, Denise McAllister, who is a pal, she's been on the show. She's an absolutely delightful, wonderful mom. And she put out a tweet the other day saying, at the root of abortion hysteria is women's unhinged desire for irresponsible sex. Sex is their God. Abortion is their sacrament. It's abhorrent as women have flung themselves from the heights of being the world's civilizing force to the muck and mire of dehumanizing depravity. She is now in hiding. I think she may have just come out. She went off. No, she's still hiding away. She is in hiding because they're calling her up and threatening to rape her and kill her. I mean, this is how the left operates. And it is how the left operates and not how the right operates. In the right, we have extremists. It's true. But this is mainstream stuff on the right now. It's not just happening here. It's happening in England. The Conservative MP, Jacob Rees-Mogg, brought his children outside his home, and he was surrounded by leftist Democrats demonstrators. Listen for a minute. We do. We have a clip of this. Listen to what this guy is shouting to the guy's kids.
Lots of people don't like your daddy, you know that. No, he's probably not told you about that. Lots of people hate him. Because he won't say how much he pays his nanny. You know the nanny who looks after you, daddy doesn't pay her very much. Daddy says the minimum wage doesn't count for anything. Or the London living wage. Daddy doesn't pay the living wage. So poor nanny crook who looks after you and wipes your bottom, she doesn't get enough money every week. But daddy doesn't care, because he's too busy posing as a Latin-eating, orientated toff, which he does pretty well. So how much do you pay your nanny? How much do you pay your nanny? How much? One fundamental question. How much do you pay your nanny?
This basically is a guy screaming at his children, if you can't understand the British accent, screaming at the MP's children. Your daddy is a bad guy. Everybody hates your daddy doesn't pay your nanny enough, and all this stuff. Because when you are a leftist, you see, you're elevated to such a high moral plane that you're allowed to do this. You're allowed to chase, Sarah Sanders out of restaurants. You're allowed to torment Mitch McConnell as he walks down the street. In Brazil, the right-wing candidate Jair Bolsonaro, 63, was stabbed by a leftist religious fanatic in a knife attack that almost killed him. He is campaigning from a hospital bed. So this is the thing. It's not just the stories they tell, it's the stories they don't tell. So you're worrying about Trump. Apparently, voters are worried about Trump being rude. Trump is rude. I've hit him on this a million times. I don't think he should treat people like that. They hit him on the chaos in his administration. I'm sure he is a chaotic manager. I doubt some of these stories. Already some of the people are saying these stories of people taking off important papers off his desk. They're denying that. I told you when I heard that I didn't believe that story. It's not that there are not staffers who will remove something saying the president doesn't need to say that, but I really do not believe that anybody took an actual executive order off the president's desk. I just don't believe that story. So these are the stories you're supposed to care about. You're supposed to wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh man, John Kelly he's really got it tough. John Kelly has faced bullets for this country. I'm sure he can face an obstreperous Donald Trump and give as good as he gets. John Kelly I'm not worried about John Kelly. He looks like a fellow who can take care of himself. So does Jim Mattis. I'm not worried about those guys at all. They do not worry about me. I worry about my family. I worry about the things that are happening in my life, because that's the story I'm telling. That's the story my life tells, and I don't care what story they're trying to force down my throat. The economy is really the big one. The economy is the one that really gets me, because this is the untold story. This is the story that we are not hearing. If Obama were still president, this would be the lead story every single day. If Obama could have done what Trump has done with the economy, lead story every day. Obama's taking credit for it. Listen to this speech he gave. It's cut number 1.
And by the time I left office, household income was near its all-time high, and the uninsured rate had hit an all-time low, and wages were rising, and poverty rates were falling. I mention all this just so when you hear how great the economy is doing right now, let's just remember when this recovery started. I'm glad it's continued, but when you hear about this economic miracle that's been going on, when the job numbers come out, monthly job numbers, and suddenly Republicans are saying it's a miracle, I have to kind of remind them, actually, those job numbers are the same as they were in 2015.
I have been waiting for days to take this apart, because this is such garbage. It is such garbage, and I haven't had time to get to it, but I want to get to it now because it is the story that the left is trying to sell. Milton Friedman, the great American economist, said that there's a pattern to the American economy. The deeper the recession, the stronger the recovery. Somebody was writing about this in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, but I know this for myself. The economy has to grow even faster than normal to catch up to where it would have been without the recession. This was true until Obama. It was true until Obama, except for one other time, the Great Depression, when FDR did a lot of the same stuff. And at least FDR said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just experimenting because I'm panicked. He said that. He actually said, we don't know what we're doing. We're just experimenting. But Obama always knew what he was doing, okay? And so there was a recovery under Obama. There was going to be a recovery, as Milton Friedman always predicted. But in the 11 previous recessions since the Depression, okay, in the 11 previous recessions, the economy recovered all jobs lost during the recession, an average of 27 months after the recession began, a little over 2 years, right? In Mr. Obama's recovery, dating from the summer of 2009, the recession's job losses were not recovered until after 76 months. That's more than 6 years, where people didn't have a job. And by the way, a lot of the jobs that were created during the Obama administration, unlike the jobs being created now, were part-time jobs and self-help jobs like Uber jobs and things like that. Nothing wrong with them, dignified jobs, but just not the same as bringing back manufacturing. Now, he was talking about, you heard Obama talking about what things were like by the time his administration was over. 2016, right? That's the end of his administration. Listen to what they were saying then, okay? This as late as 2016, Team Obama, here's from AEI, Team Obama, sorry America, the new normal may be here to stay. They were talking about 2% growth, 2% GDP growth. And this is what they said. The good times may be over for good. In a speech to the Economic Club of New York yesterday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew said the U.S. GDP growth rate, adjusted for inflation, is now projected to run a little above 2% a year. That would be a significant downshift from the 3.4% average growth rate from the end of World War II until 2007. It's the end of 2016. They were telling us 2% growth was the new normal. Here's from the AP, same time, 2016, end of Obama, right? 8 years of Obama. Americans should get used to a new normal of slow economic growth, business economists say. The median estimates from economists surveyed by the National Association for Business Economics calls for the American economy to grow 2.2% in 2017. And by the way, we used to have discussions here at the Daily Wire, because I'm like the oldest person. You have to add Ben and Knowles together to get halfway to my age. And I said to them, you guys do not know what it's like when a crappy economy like I lived through under Carter gives way to the economy that Reagan creates. It's like laughing gas. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And during the Carter economy, I will tell you from personal experience, they said the same thing. America is ungovernable. The growth rate is now going, this is the new normal, this inflation, this stagflation, this is the way it's going to be. Nobody can do anything about it. Reagan took office, bang. 2 years later, it's gone. That is the thing. They sell you that you can't do better. Let's listen to the great Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman, who took off his tinfoil hat just long enough to be in this interview with this guy. Listen to the question. A little hard to hear. The guy has a thick Indian accent. A little hard to hear, but he's saying, is this 2% growth the new normal?
Many countries are flirting with deflation, or their inflation is below target. World trade is shrinking. And this is despite extraordinary policy measures such as low interest rates, expansion of central bank balance sheets, increase in public spending. So what went wrong? Means why has the world, even 8 years after this recession or after this financial crisis, not recovered fully? And do you think that this is the new normal in a way?
Okay, I am mostly convinced that it is the new normal.
Honk. Wrong, Paul. Wrong. And the thing is, Obama sat on the recovery by anti-business regulations and by that incredible, whining, solemn, America-blaming idea. And because for all his posters saying hope, the guy didn't have much hope for the future of America. Listen to this.
Some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. And when somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have? And usually the answer is he doesn't have an answer.
All right, and now I just want to play this little segment of David Asman's show on Fox Business. He's interviewing Trump's new economic advisor, Larry Kudlow. Just listen to the difference. This is now only 2 years later, folks. It's only 2 years later. Listen to this.
Well, more really good news for the U.S. economy, with employers adding a better than expected 201,000 jobs in August. This is yearly wage growth hits a 9-year high. Let's bring in White House Chief Economic Advisor and good friend Larry Kudlow. Larry, congratulations. What would you say the headline of this story is today?
You know, I think here's the broader headline. The single biggest news story in 2018, by far, is an economic boom that almost everyone believed to be impossible. That, to me, is the story, not all this other stuff that pops up periodically. The economy is booming on all cylinders. There's been a big change in policy and attitude and confidence. And let me add to that, this is middle class, working folks, fatter paychecks kind of stuff. And it's not over. This is not 1 quarter or 2 quarters. Every reading I have, I used to do it for a living, is this going to go on for quite some time? That's the story, David. An economic boom folks said couldn't happen.
So Donald Trump is doing such a bad job that Barack Obama is trying to take credit for it. But Barack Obama, in his day, at the end of his administration, was asking, how is this going to happen? What magic wand does he have? Well, abracadabra, knucklehead. And this is the story. This is the big story of 2018. Kudlow is absolutely right. It's the story that's not being told. With the shenanigans in the White House, whether it's true or not, is not the story of your life. This is. All right, we got the mailbag coming up. I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. Come on over to thedailywire.com and you can listen to the rest of the show. But while you're there, hey, subscribe. Why? Because we want your money. You know, what are you doing with it? It's a lousy $10 a month. For $100, you get the whole year. You get the Leftist Tears tumbler, and you get all your problems solved because you can then ask questions in the mailbag and get the answers that are 100% correct. That is coming right up.